Ed Sullivan sat in his office at CBS, staring at a phone message that made his heart ache with conflicting emotions. It was November 17, 1967, and Judy Garland's agent had called to request what would be her final appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. The message was brief but devastating. Judy wants to perform one more time. She knows her reputation is damaged. She knows people think she's unreliable and broken, but she believes she has one more great performance left in her, and she wants to give it on your show. Ed knew that Judy Garland, the girl who had sung Over the Rainbow and captured America's heart 30 years ago, was now considered a tragic figure whose addictions and personal struggles had made her virtually unemployable. But he also knew that beneath the tabloid headlines and industry whispers was still one of the greatest voices in American entertainment history. Before you hear this incredible story, hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to witness is how a fallen star found her way back to greatness one final time, proving that talent never truly dies. It just sometimes gets buried under pain. To understand why Ed Sullivan was so reluctant to book Judy Garland in November 1967, you need to understand how far she had fallen from her status as America's sweetheart and one of the most beloved entertainers in the world. The woman who had once been MGM's biggest musical star, who had captivated audiences in The Wizard of Oz and countless other films, had become known more for her personal troubles than for her artistic achievements. The transformation was heartbreaking for anyone who remembered the bright, talented young woman who had seemed to embody hope and innocence. Judy's struggles with prescription drugs, which had begun during her teenage years at MGM, when studio doctors gave her amphetamines to keep her thin and barbiturates to help her sleep, had escalated throughout the 1950s and early 1960s. The studio system that had made her a star had also created the conditions for her eventual destruction, introducing her to dangerous medications when she was too young to understand their long-term consequences. By 1967, Judy's weight fluctuated dramatically between appearances. Her behavior had become increasingly erratic and unpredictable, and her ability to fulfill professional commitments had become questionable at best. She had been fired from films, walked off concert stages mid-performance during emotional breakdowns, and developed a reputation for being unreliable that made many in the entertainment industry reluctant to work with her despite her obvious talent. The stories from her recent performances were troubling. She had collapsed on stage during a London concert, forgotten lyrics to songs she had been singing for decades, and arrived at venues so intoxicated that she could barely stand. These incidents had been widely reported in the entertainment press, creating a public perception that Judy Garland was a tragic figure whose best days were long behind her. "It breaks my heart to see what's happened to Judy," Ed had confided to his wife Sylvia earlier in 1967, after reading yet another disturbing report about her erratic behavior. "She's one of the most talented people I've ever met, but the demons she's fighting seem to be winning. Every time someone gives her a chance, something goes wrong." Judy had appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show multiple times throughout the 1950s and early 1960s, and her performances had always been spectacular when she actually made it to the stage. Her voice had the power to move audiences to tears, and her stage presence was magnetic in a way that few performers could match. But there had also been troubling incidents, missed rehearsals, last-minute cancellations, and one memorable occasion when Judy had arrived at the studio, clearly under the influence of something that made it impossible for her to perform coherently. The November 1967 request came at a particularly desperate time for Judy. She was deep in debt, living in a small apartment in New York, and struggling to find work that would pay enough to support herself and her children. Her fifth marriage had ended in a bitter divorce, and she was facing the possibility of losing custody of her youngest children due to her financial and personal instability. The entertainment industry seemed to have written her off as a has-been whose problems made her more trouble than she was worth. But Judy's agent insisted during his phone call with Ed that she was different now, that she had found new motivation to get her life together. "She's been sober for 3 weeks," the agent told Ed during their conversation. "She's been working with a new doctor who has her on a medication regimen that's helping her stay stable. Most importantly, she knows this might be her last chance to remind people why they loved her in the first place." The agent's voice carried genuine emotion as he continued. "Mr. Sullivan, Judy understands that her reputation is damaged. She knows that people in the industry see her as unreliable and broken. But she believes Ed and I believes that she has one more great performance left in her. She wants to give it on your show, because she respects you and trusts that you'll present her fairly." Ed was skeptical but also deeply moved by Judy's desire to redeem herself professionally. He had watched her career deteriorate with genuine sadness, remembering the vibrant, talented young woman who had charmed audiences and seemed to have unlimited potential. The idea that she might be ready to fight her way back to respectability was both inspiring and concerning. "I'll give her a chance," Ed finally decided after a long pause, "but with strict conditions that are non-negotiable. She has to attend every rehearsal, be completely sober for all interactions with the production staff, and understand that if she causes any disruption or fails to meet our professional standards, this will be her final appearance on any television show I'm associated with." The agreement was made, and Judy was scheduled to perform 2 songs during a December 17, 1967 taping. Ed chose to tape the performance rather than broadcast it live, partly to protect his show from potential problems, and partly to give Judy the security of being able to correct any mistakes without the pressure of a live audience watching her every move. The days leading up to the taping were tense for Ed's entire production staff. Judy had a history of disappearing for days before important performances, and everyone was prepared for the possibility that she might not show up at all. But to everyone's surprise, Judy appeared for rehearsals on time and appeared to be in better condition than anyone had expected. "She's different," Ed's musical director observed after the first rehearsal. "She's thinner than she's been in years. Her voice sounds strong, and she seems focused in a way I haven't seen from her in a long time. It's like she's decided this is her last chance to get it right." But Ed remained cautious. He had seen Judy appear stable before, only to have her condition deteriorate rapidly when the pressure of performance approached. He increased security around the studio and arranged for medical personnel to be available if Judy experienced any kind of health crisis. The day of the December 17th taping arrived, and Ed was amazed when Judy appeared at CBS Studio 52 hours early, dressed professionally and appearing more composed than he had seen her in years. But it was clear that the years of struggle had taken their toll. She looked much older than her 45 years, and there was a fragility about her that suggested she was holding herself together through sheer willpower. "Sullivan," Judy said when she encountered Ed backstage, "I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I know I haven't always been reliable in the past, and I know you're taking a risk by booking me. I promise you won't regret it." Ed was struck by the humility and gratitude in Judy's voice. This was not the demanding, temperamental star he had dealt with in previous years. This was a woman who understood that her reputation was damaged and who was genuinely grateful for the chance to perform again. During the sound check and final rehearsal, it became clear that whatever personal demons Judy was fighting, her talent remained undiminished. Her voice had gained a deeper, more emotional quality that came from years of pain and experience. She was no longer the innocent young woman who had sung over the rainbow, but she had become something perhaps even more powerful, an artist who could communicate profound emotion through music. For her first song, Judy chose "The Man That Got Away," the Ira Gershwin composition that had become one of her signature pieces. As she began to sing about loss and heartbreak, the studio fell completely silent. Everyone present seemed to understand that they were witnessing something extraordinary. Ed watched from the wings, tears streaming down his face as he heard the pain and hope in Judy's voice. This wasn't just a performance, it was a confession, a plea for forgiveness, and a demonstration of artistic courage that took his breath away. When Judy finished "The Man That Got Away," the studio audience was silent for several seconds before erupting in applause that seemed to go on forever. But more than the applause, there was a quality of recognition and love that suggested the audience understood they were witnessing something precious and possibly final. For her second song, Judy performed "Over the Rainbow," the song that had made her famous nearly 30 years earlier. But this version was unlike any she had ever performed before. Instead of the hopeful, innocent interpretation from The Wizard of Oz, this Over the Rainbow was sung by someone who had been over the rainbow and had found that the other side was more complicated and painful than she had imagined. The performance was heartbreaking and beautiful, a mature artist's reflection on lost innocence and the price of fame. Judy sang about dreams and wishes with the perspective of someone who had achieved those dreams and discovered that they came with costs she hadn't anticipated. When Judy finished Over the Rainbow, the studio was silent except for the sound of people crying. The performance had been so emotionally powerful that it transcended entertainment and became something closer to a spiritual experience. Ed walked onto the stage, struggling to maintain his professional composure while knowing he had just witnessed one of the greatest performances in television history. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ed said, his voice thick with emotion, "you have just heard from one of the greatest artists of our time. Judy Garland has given us more than entertainment tonight. She has shared her heart and soul with us, and we are privileged to have witnessed it." Judy stood unsteadily, clearly exhausted by the emotional effort of the performance but also visibly moved by the audience's response. When Ed embraced her on stage, she whispered, "Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." The taping ended with Judy receiving a standing ovation that lasted for nearly 5 minutes. As the studio cleared, Judy remained on stage for several minutes, seeming to absorb the love and appreciation that had been directed toward her. "This is how I want to be remembered," Judy told Ed as they walked off the stage together. "Not as someone who couldn't control her demons, but as someone who could still create something beautiful even after everything that's happened to me." The Ed Sullivan Show episode featuring Judy's performance aired on December 24, 1967, becoming one of the most watched and critically acclaimed episodes in the show's history. The timing was perfect. Judy's message of hope and redemption resonated powerfully during the Christmas season. The response to Judy's appearance was overwhelming and largely positive. Critics who had been harsh about her recent performances praised her comeback, and the public responded with an outpouring of love and support that Judy had not experienced in years. More importantly for Judy personally, the appearance led to a series of concert bookings and recording opportunities that provided her with income and renewed confidence in her abilities. For a brief period, it seemed as if she might be able to rebuild her career and her life. Tragically, Judy Garland died just 18 months later, on June 22, 1969, at the age of 47. Her death was ruled accidental, caused by an overdose of barbiturates, but many who knew her believed she had simply been worn down by decades of struggle with addiction and the pressures of fame. Ed Sullivan was among those who spoke at Judy's memorial service, focusing not on her troubles but on her extraordinary talent and her courage in continuing to perform even when her personal life was in chaos. Judy Garland's final appearance on our show reminded us all why we fell in love with her in the first place. Ed said at the service, "She showed us that talent is eternal, that the human spirit can create beauty even in the midst of profound suffering, and that redemption is always possible for those brave enough to seek it." The December 1967 Ed Sullivan Show performance became Judy Garland's artistic epitaph, the performance by which she wanted to be remembered. It demonstrated that even artists who struggle with personal demons can still access the gifts that made them great, and that sometimes the most powerful art comes from those who have experienced the deepest pain. Ed Sullivan later described Judy's final appearance as one of the most meaningful moments in his television career, not because of its technical perfection, but because it demonstrated the redemptive power of art and the importance of giving people second chances even when they seem beyond help. "Judy taught me that you should never give up on talented people, even when they seem to have given up on themselves," Ed reflected years later. "Her final performance showed me that grace can emerge from the most unlikely places, and that sometimes the most broken people can create the most beautiful art." The legacy of Judy Garland's final Ed Sullivan Show appearance extends far beyond entertainment history. It serves as a testament to the power of artistic expression to transcend personal struggles, and as a reminder that redemption and grace are possible even in the darkest circumstances. If this story of redemption and artistic courage moved you, hit that subscribe button and tell us, have you ever witnessed someone find their way back to greatness after seemingly losing everything? Sometimes the most powerful comeback stories are about rediscovering the gifts that were always there, buried beneath years of pain and disappointment.